Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Isabella here with Kingdom Builders and Entrepreneurs, where we meet business and faith together and we talk about purpose that fuels our profit. So today we are going to talk about overcoming loneliness and how sometimes when we're so busy and consumed and maybe a business or a career or just like a lot of ideas that God's giving us, how sometimes we can get isolated and become a little lonely. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today. My name is Isabella. I'm the founder of Kingdom Builders and Entrepreneurs. And then Isaac and Faith, if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
All right, I'll go then. So my name is Isaac. I am also founder of Product Pro, a content marketing agency, and it's good to be here with you guys.
Hey, I'm Faith. I'm a freelance writer located currently in North Carolina.
Yes. So we are parts, Isaac is also in Nigeria. So we're kind of like all over, scattered across the globe, which is really exciting. So we've had guest speakers in the past from the UK, and our next guest speaker, I believe, is from New York or somewhere around the East Coast. But so my topic that I want to start off with is talking about how my title is my idol, and how I kind of got to that conclusion, and how that kind of led to kind of the loneliness and the isolation. So just with my background, so I got my bachelor's at UNC Charlotte back in 2021. And throughout that time, I was still trying to figure out, like what I was doing with my degree, what I was doing with my life. I was always told that you have to go to school, you have to get your bachelor's, you have to get your master's, you have to do this, you have to do this. So because it was also COVID era, I took about a year off so I could figure out, like, what do I do now? Since the whole world kind of stopped and I didn't feel like doing online school anymore. So after a year of working in the field, also my background's in architecture. So after a year of working in the field, I started to pursue my master's. I initially started with a dual degree in business and architecture and ended up going to Ohio, but then decided that that wasn't really for me. So I came back to North Carolina to go to NC State and just do my master's in architecture. But I was always trying to, I never really thought about like what really I wanted to do. I always thought about like what looks good on paper. And so, getting that college degree, getting that master's degree, getting that job title, and just kind of following the crowd without really having a plan on what it is that I truly wanted, just kind of led me astray a little bit. So on paper, I was doing all the right things. So I, taught at like 3 different universities. I worked at 2 different architecture firms. I worked at 1 engineering firm. And I worked with just the universities all around. And so when I noticed that, when I wasn't really focused on what I wanted to do, but when I was focused on what the right thing was to do in a career, I guess, I always felt like competition and comparison always kept me super busy. It always kept me, trying to figure out like how I can do more and how I can do, like show more things on my resume, and just kind of bouncing around because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And so that, I was, like it says here, like I was never really happy enough with what I was doing, because, on social media and things like that, you always see people do more and more and more. And so that mindset is always like, what can I do next? Like, you don't stop and take a look at your accomplishments. You're always looking at like, what is the next thing to do? What is the next right thing to do, quote unquote, with this career path. And sometimes I think that's just a lot of distractions that kind of deviates you from really thinking about like, okay, what plan do I want for my life? And like what are the steps to get there? So in scripture, in James 3:14-16, it says, "But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice." So for me, that really meant that, I was always not intentionally like trying to boast, but I always felt like, oh, like I have this title because I've done this and this and this, and I've, you know, accomplished this at this school and this at that school and this. And so, carrying those thoughts, wasn't really godly at all. And even if I didn't boast about it, and others did kind of boast for me, I never felt like complete enough. And I wasn't ever really sure why that was until I started to understand what my purpose was as a child of God versus, someone that is supposed to be ambitious and, running their fuels 24/7 and just being on go mode and living the grind or whatever. And so that essentially caused me to prioritize other things outside of God, which turned it into an idol for me. And so there are other things that can be idols where you just compare it to God. So that could be money, that could be status and lifestyle, that could be worldly success, or that could be a checklist of accomplishments. And so even though I knew that I didn't prioritize money over God, or a lifestyle over God, or necessarily like that kind of stuff, I did always have those checklists of accomplishments prioritized over God. And so I started to realize this fairly recently. And once I did, it kind of took a toll on me because I was just, God really put it in my heart like, hey, if I was to take these titles away from you, like what do you have left? And so it really took a toll on me, and it, made me rethink about what my true purpose is. And even though all the things I'm doing are good things, like good deeds, I want to focus on community building and affordable housing and how do I make my city better and all this stuff. I was so consumed into what I was doing for others, and that was my value. And if I had that taken away from me, I wouldn't feel like I had value. And so that's when I started to realize that, these were starting to become checklists that were turning into an idol and making me work and grind super hard for that. And so that's just something that I recently came across. And so in Matthew 6, this is specifically about money, but I feel like this also correlates with anything that you prioritize over God. So it says, no one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. And so I think also talking to a lot of entrepreneurs and people that are on that grind to find their career path, they've like lost time and maybe spent so much time on what they wanted to do, not what God wants them to do, that they don't pay attention to their family, they don't pay attention to their friends, they don't pay attention to God, and they don't make that space for any of those relationships. And so I think that's when you start to realize like, okay, are my accomplishments, is my career, is my business, like, is all of this overpowering me and honestly turning into like almost like your master? Like it's telling you what to do all the time and what you can and can't do. And like walking in the Christian faith, like you have to only serve God. You can't have anything over that. And so sometimes when God reveals that kind of stuff to you, it can take a toll, and you do need to take a step back. But that's just something that I just realized. So my ambitions were leading me to a little bit of loneliness, because after I was trying to figure out my career situation, I was also really driven by entrepreneurship. And so I, started working on like a drafting company, and then I started a faith-based t-shirt company, and then I wanted to get into real estate investing. And so I was very consumed in a lot of things that were kind of just taking a lot of my time. And so it honestly was kind of chaotic, because I wasn't really prioritizing my time correctly, and I ended up isolating myself, because when you do have that one afternoon where you're free, you try to think about like, who am I going to call? And then you're like, wait a minute, I haven't talked to anyone in weeks. Like, I've been so busy trying to do my life and what I want to do, that I've kind of forgotten that like God has put us here not just for ourselves, but to pour into other people, to be there in other communities, to be there for your church, to be there for your family, and to like not be so selfish. And even though sometimes you might think, oh, well, I'm trying to make money, or I'm trying to be successful so I can help the poor, or I can help my family, or I can help this charity, sometimes you might think of that, but it turns into a very like selfish thing, because inside you might feel like a void, and like you don't have a value, and your value is yourself pouring into these things that kind of consume you, and then you kind of like deviate from what like God is really trying to get you into. So yeah, so this was just me trying to find my purpose in entrepreneurship. And so I just surrounded myself with a lot of entrepreneurs, that like a range of people, from like real estate investors to like people that work in marketing, people that work in finance, brand ambassadors. And then with my t-shirt company, that was something really exciting for me, because I felt like God was really calling me to do that. And I was just trying to figure out like, what is this business I should start? And then it, one thing led to another. And then here I am. Never thought that I would make a faith-based t-shirt company, but it was fun while I was like coming up with everything. But the reality of an entrepreneur is that sometimes we work ourselves to the bone, and we don't, sometimes when we're not in a community, we forget that we do have to take a step back. We do have to focus on our mental health. We do have to like try to understand that we need a breaks every now and then. So these are just some statistics that I found from a study back in last year. And with that, pretty much a third of entrepreneurs experience burnout. And it happens to the best of us. And, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but it's also being very weary and paying attention to how much you're working yourself to the bone, and how that's not always like a healthy environment to be in. And also almost 30% of entrepreneurs struggle with loneliness and isolation. So I knew once looking at the study that I wasn't the only one that felt this way, because I do know entrepreneurs that thrive in going out to, so many networking events and going to conferences and stuff. But there are entrepreneurs that work remotely, and they only work from home. And that can also lead to a lot of loneliness and isolation. So sometimes when you get caught up in your career and building your business, you isolate yourself spiritually. So sometimes it's not even physically, like if you're that realtor that has to go out and network and all that stuff, but you're so consumed in, wearing that hat, that you forget like, oh, I need to take time with myself and be with God and talk to God, and like talk to myself and ask myself how I'm doing. You're so just like on that grind that you just forget about that, even if you're surrounded by a million people. And that's why, at least in the United States, we struggle with loneliness, no matter how how much we're in like a community or a virtual community. So isolating yourself can always lead to depression or doubt, which is also like a whole nother thing, or loneliness. So in Proverbs, God reminds us that whoever isolates themselves seek their own desire. And that's one thing that I was realizing. It's like I was so consumed in what I wanted to do and not making time for God, not making time for myself, that I was isolating myself to seek my own desire, to, get that title, or, get that like accomplishment done, because I felt like I needed to get all these accomplishments done to be somebody, to be important. And so, they rage against all sound judgment. So then sometimes when you're in that mindset, you're not listening to what God is telling you to do. You're not listening to what your community is telling you, because you're not in that community space. Um, so I guess I just wanted to kind of throw some question at you guys and see if like maybe you're kind of holding your title as your idol too. So these are some kind of questions that I feel like maybe all of us should just think about every now and then. So, does your business or job description matter to you more than what God wants for you? Um, do opinions from others in your career or workplace matter more than God's opinion for you? Are you afraid or anxious about letting others know about your faith in a business environment? And I think I was kind of reflecting on all these questions a couple months ago when I started to learn about what kind of idol I had. And so I just kind of wanted to throw it out there, in case maybe someone is struggling with some of these, and then, is your business yours or is it God's? So are you so consumed in your career or business that you don't have time for God or your relationships or your family? Is it hard for you to give back to others and tithe? Because God tells us, none of that money is ours. Everything is temporary. He's just lending it to us, essentially. So, making sure that we're giving back generously and we're tithing our 10%. And, that comes with business too. Going to, business conferences or Christian entrepreneur conferences, the really successful ones, one of the advice that they gave me was, make sure you're tithing in your company. And so, yeah. Do you feel like you don't have a purpose if your business or career doesn't work out? And I think that happens a lot. I think even non-Christians, once their job fails or maybe their career paths change, they just get so they just feel like they lost their purpose. They feel like they lost their value. And then that can spiral out of control. I know that some people, there are two types of people. Some people thrive in that. It's a new opportunity for them. It's a new like way to explore like what it is that life is and all that stuff. But there's also the other half that, feel purposeless and feel like their life is crumbling and they don't really know how to get back up on their feet. And some people do and some people don't. So that's just something that I kind of wanted to say to the group. And so overcoming your loneliness. Give your business and your career to God. Honestly, it's just easier that way. When you fully trusting in God and He will guide you to where you have to be, to what business you should go into, to what career you should go into, He will always open the doors to where you're supposed to be led to. And I've had, people ask me, believers and non-believers ask me, well, what if God's not answering my prayers? And so one thing that I heard from a sermon a while ago was that, God's not a genie. He's not gonna, you don't just say like, hey, God, rub in my lamp. I need this right now. And He's gonna be like, oh yeah, let me just give it to you like that. That's not how God works. And something I feel like to remind yourselves are, if God is like the teacher in the classroom and you're the student, And God is teaching you all these lessons. And when it's time for you to take the test in your business or your career, and you're raising your hand during the test, asking the teacher, like, hey, can you tell me the answer? Can you tell me the answer? Can you tell me the answer? The teacher is not going to tell you the answer because it's a test. And so sometimes you got to think about that whenever you are praying into certain things like, God, what should I do with my business? Or like, where am I supposed to be in the workplace right now? Like, just tell me right now so I can just, quit my job and figure it out then. Sometimes he tells you and sometimes he doesn't. And if he doesn't, it's because he knows you're in the testing season and he's just waiting for you to take that leap of faith to figure out, like, do I trust God in this or do I not? So the other one to overcome loneliness is just be aware of when you isolate yourself and seek counsel and reach out to your church community. No one is really going to understand like the spiritual side of things unless it's that church community or something related to that. Maybe your friends that are believers. And so I would just say, whenever something is really hard, one thing I've realized is when you're about to get a breakthrough and the enemy starts isolating you, that's when you should go to church. That's when you should go to the meeting. That's when you should go to the gym. That's when you should get out of bed, because the enemy is always trying to control that because there's about to be a breakthrough coming. So just being aware of that and trying to, work on discipline, because discipline comes in many ways. Like when you're starting a business or when you're pursuing a career, like it takes a lot of discipline to get to where you want to go. So just being aware that like when you isolate yourself, just like you just reach out to somebody, go to church, serve at church, do something for others. And I promise you that it will get you out of that isolation mode. And the third one that I have is just always asking the Lord to reveal to you if you have idols in your life. And for me, at least with this experience, I think the closer I get to God, the more that he's revealing to me, and he's not going to tell me everything all at once. Like, hey, this is a checklist or this is a list of all the things that are wrong with you. I feel like that would be very overwhelming. So I just kind of am just like praying one day at a time or 1 week at a time or 1 month at a time. And just asking God, is there anything in my life that is an idol? And pray how to overcome that. Because sometimes idols lead you astray into maybe things you didn't want to do, maybe into a situation you didn't want to be in, maybe a headspace that you can't do alone, like being so consumed and so busy and so everything that you burn out. And then you're just like, oh gosh, like, God, where are you? Like, why are you not here? And then turns out it's because you were not making the time to have that relationship with him. So you are not alone, and God loves you and he wants you to succeed. And so, just taking these things into account and, thinking about how you can start to like walk your journey in your business or your career path or whatever venture you're doing, and taking God alongside you, because I promise that there will be more fruit at the end of the line, when you walk with God. So if you liked this and you want to hear more things like this, I definitely encourage you guys to join our WhatsApp group. We have our announcements in there. We have an introduction and business chat where we kind of have all the different entrepreneurs in one space to, give their contacts out in case anyone needs someone in architecture or a freelancer or a web developer. And then we also have our Iron Sharpens Iron group where we just pray for each other. We're there for each other in community, and anything else that anyone else needs, because at the end of the day, we're not just a business. We are children of God and we love on each other, and that's what God tells us to do. So we are here to be that community for you. And then you guys can also take a look at a survey for this group. And with that, that is what I have for you guys today. I know
Isabella,
that was
I'd love to chat through some of the questions that you had. I thought a lot of them could be really interesting, just to hear
Sure.
everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, will you go
can
back
you read
to one of the slides? Yeah. Yeah, I thought these were really great questions. To like think through. Because I think everything you were saying is super relatable. It's easy to get so caught up in what you're doing and what you're working on in your career, and then just focus on that and prioritize that in your life over other people or whatever. Especially, you mentioned, like the societal pressure to pursue a certain path. And I think that is so real and really hard to unlearn everything that's been instilled in you from school and like older generations and things like that, to then do something different and pursue especially entrepreneurship. It's a lot of unlearning, and I think in the past year I've been doing that, and that's such a hard mental game. And then it's also been kind of a lonely process to then try to resonate with my friends who
Yeah.
are on the same path. So then um I spent 5 months living abroad last year, so then to also kind of do that and then come back to the States and feel like I've changed so much on the inside, but my friends only see me on the outside and as the person I was before. And like so much has changed, and it's really hard to resonate with people, and it became super lonely when I got back. And then it's trying to build back into that, and then getting so focused on work and just grinding out that I don't prioritize, praying and things like that. So it's definitely a lot, but it takes time to be okay with being lonely and seeking that comfort in the Lord and finding that community. And I think that's why this community is so important, to find those people to resonate with on that same level of entrepreneurship and in your relationship with Jesus. So we go to or does anyone else have any like thoughts or things to the question? Yeah, go ahead, Mama Kai.
Hey y'all. It's another amazing day in paradise. Happy Monday. Thank y'all so much for allowing me to participate in this group. Thank you so much for everything that has been shared, Isabella. You did a great job. And Faith, thank you so much for being vulnerable and honest and transparent in your sharing. Um, Whenever I hear things like that, one of my biggest challenges that we have in the faith community is we tend to separate science and spirituality when they are really very much interconnected. And so when we're talking about loneliness and we have that sense of loneliness, one of the things that we teach as a parent coach is that every behavior, every emotion is the sign of a need, whether met or unmet. So we usually are familiar with, elation, and elation means, something good happened. But things like depression and loneliness, like that's a sign of a need. And it gets really challenging to address that need and to seek comfort in the God if we're not trying to figure out what the need is. Um, and so, what I would invite you to say to yourself is, why am I feeling lonely? And when you get that answer, or why am I feeling whatever emotion? And when you get the answer to that, if that doesn't bring some clarity, then ask yourself, why am that? So if I start saying, well, why am I feeling lonely? And Faith, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go, like from something you said. It's because the people that I used to hang around with I don't have time with anymore. And so then there's, well, why do you feel lonely? Because the people that you used to spend time with, you don't spend time with anymore if you know that you've grown and you've changed. And that could then reveal it's because I haven't found enough people, you know, to meet the needs that my new needs. So then it is, well, why haven't you found new people yet? you know, and you keep asking until you can get to the root cause. And it's like, okay, well, maybe this is because I need to spend more time out and in one-on-one. And maybe, you know, with this group of friends that I've created, I need to go out and have some one-on-one time so I can feel like I'm gaining friendships like I had in the past, but with this new group of people, you know. And that's just, that may not be the direction that your, you know, inquiry goes. It was just an idea. Because one of the things that we don't realize is that when we have, that is a, loneliness is kind of, could be considered part of having an unregulated nervous system. You know, we always hear about fight, flight, freeze or please. You know, loneliness gets us into a state of kind of freeze. You know, we want to hide into ourselves. And what we don't realize is that when we aren't in a state of rest, if we aren't in a state of parasympathetic nervous system regulation, then our communication, our station isn't always completely connected. We connect with God most in a when we're regulated. When we're not regulated, we might get stuck between stations, and the answers that we're seeking may not be as clear as we need them to be. So I would just like to invite you all, if this is something that you're struggling with or any other emotion that you're facing, then to start with the scientific aspect of us, because we were created by God and we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and he created us in a very systematic way, just the way he created the universe, you know. And so when we are able to take that responsibility and say, okay, God, this is what I've done on my part, what else, tell me what I need, what I haven't done yet. I think one of the most incredible times that I've had with God was asking him to reveal to me things that I was doing that I thought were okay, but that were offensive to him, you know? Um, and he told me. But just to know that, you know, God gives, he's given us so many tools because he wants us to be that expression of being fearfully and wonderfully made, you know? And so when we can take that and say, okay, God, I want you to know this is what I've done. I know you're aware of it, but I'm coming to you. I'm coming to the throne of grace because I don't know what to do beyond this. But now that I have some answers, please help reveal to me what I don't already know or whatever it is you're seeking. And um, that I would hope brings more peace to the loneliness, because being lonely isn't necessarily bad. Or being alone, right, isn't necessarily bad. Being lonely isn't necessarily bad either. It depends on what your thoughts are telling you about that moment, you know. um I feel like, I hope I said that right. You know, we want to be able to be comfortable in whatever state we're in, knowing that we are blessed and highly favored no matter what's going on, right? We just don't want that emotion to be negative. And just like anger, you know, anger isn't a negative emotion, it's a sign of a need. It's what we do with that anger, you know. So, and with
That's
that, I
good.
think I'm gonna pause.
No, that was good. What you and Faith were saying about how sometimes, you know, it's hard to relate to people. I think for me at least, you're in the church community and you're so excited about talking about business and this and that and this and that. And, you know, maybe not a lot of people can relate to that. And then outside of that, when you're in a business setting, you want to talk about God and how it's changed your life and your business and your career path and why you're even in this meeting. And sometimes it's really hard to be able to even say that. You just kind of feel like a fish out of water in both things. So I think it's really important to just seek the right counsel. So I went to a conference last week and I was telling Faith and Isaac about it, and it was really inspiring to, you know, hear about you know, these really successful entrepreneurs that were able to do it and having their faith in front of them the entire time. And just being immersed in that kind of environment. And so that's essentially why we build this group too, because there's a lot of people, especially like young professionals, that are still trying to figure out, you know, what is it that we're supposed to be doing, because we're told that we're supposed to know what we're doing by this age. Like, I really thought I was gonna be a millionaire by like, I don't know, like 25. And I'm still trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing. So it's kind of just like taking a step back and realizing that um focusing on your inner self, and for me that inner self is my relationship with God, like focusing on that first. And something that we're talking about at our church, because me, Jay, and Colin, we all go to the same church, and it's really about taking a step back and being like, okay, a career can always be on pause for a month, a year, but that relationship that you have with God, like really understanding like who you are in him, will always build that confidence to understand who you are in the workplace, no matter what anybody says, no matter what environment you're in. And so that's something that I think is really powerful. And yeah, I agree, like there's scientific things that we should probably be aware of, because God made us in such a specific way. But I also think that sometimes the scientific, if might just like get in the way sometimes when you're trying to figure certain things out, because that might be a natural kind of problem or solution, but God is supernatural. And so just knowing that he might work in ways that maybe sometimes science doesn't have an explanation for, is just kind of important to like understand and realize. So yeah. Did you
Well,
guys
I
have
just
any
want
more?
to speak to that because I'm not saying that you shouldn't look for the miracles and for God to be supernatural. I'm saying that within the natural, that there are some things that we can first navigate for ourselves. And so God can reveal himself in the supernatural. There's no way that I would ever like minimize the power of God. I'm saying that there are definitely things that we can do that will help to minimize some of the negativity because we have the best connection when we are in a regulated regulated nervous, when our nervous system is regulated. And because you're talking about mental health, the essence of mental health is having a regulated nervous system. That's the
Yeah,
essence of it. And so
right.
it's not the two are not in any way, shape, or form should never be um it's not a but statement, it's an and statement.
Yeah,
They shouldn't contradict one another because God is the master scientist. He's the architecture, he's the astronomer, he is the master of everything. And so can't call him a creator. We know that every atom he created, that's science. So we can't discount that aspect of us, especially if we're supposed to serve him with of who we are. That includes our bodies. And our bodies were made by the creator who is a scientist. And so we can't X that out because we would be disconnecting from a part of God that he himself manifested when he created us. So
yeah,
I appreciate what you said, but it's not a but statement, it's an and statement. We definitely should do what we can to navigate our nervous systems and still expect God to show up supernaturally.
yeah, yeah. I wasn't trying to like call you out or anything. Um, but yeah, no, I appreciate that comment. I don't know if you guys had any more questions or comments.
I think you did an amazing job. I really appreciated the concept of my title is my idol,
Mm.
and also how in this world we are taught, and this is from our formative years. We're taught that it's our job to please other people because we get that from our parents and the way that we were raised. When we do something wrong and we get in trouble, we learn, oh, I've got to do things to please my parents so I don't get in trouble. And we take that, and the whole world is based like that, you know? And so I really appreciate you highlighting those things because it really is important that God is trying to eliminate that because we all have infinite and intrinsic value. And it's not about what we do because He created us. We have infinite and intrinsic value from the moment that we're born to the day that we die, and nothing takes that away except for
Yeah,
our perceptions of one another, you know? So I really appreciate you highlighting that.
of course. Yeah, I think the more I talk about this, the more people are opening up about how they're feeling the same way. So I just wanted to go ahead and just put this conversation out there. And just know that like any of us in the group, like we'll pray for you. We'll do anything that we can to like help you in your business and everything, because this group is not about like, oh, I know absolutely everything. It's more like I'm learning and we're learning together. We're sharpening each other's iron. Like that's what our group is about. So even if I don't have the answers for everything, like, we'll figure it out as a group. We'll figure it out together. We'll figure it out in God's timing. So yeah, Faith, I think you're gonna say something.
Oh, I was gonna echo, like, I really enjoyed hearing your story, and I agree, like, it's a super, super relatable, but it's one of those things that you don't realize how many other people are dealing with it until you talk about it. So thank you so much for sharing your story with that. And it really gave a lot to reflect on, especially when you mentioned, like, if God took all these idols away, what would you have? I really like that statement. It definitely gave something to just kind of think about and reflect on. So thank you.
Yeah. When he said that to me the other week, I was like, whoa. I was like, what? I was like just on my computer just typing away, and then he just like asked me that, and I was like, wow, that's a lot to handle right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What a great point.
Yeah. Um
Anyone
Go ahead,
else
Isaac.
things they
Oh,
want to
sorry.
share? Oh, Isaac, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, right, right. But that was beautiful, Isabella. I think every entrepreneur or every Christian at a particular point in time gets asked that question by God, because I think due to the fallen nature of man, there is always a tendency to make that which is ephemeral the ultimate thing, right? That thing that passes away, the thing that determines us, right? And I love this topic because Mama Kai spoke just in a sentence about like, there was one sentence she made that I think was really beautiful. In that, she said, when we're lonely, that feeling of loneliness sometimes might not necessarily be bad, especially when we can sort of like know the kind of thoughts that we have in our minds, right? And I want to speak to that just a little bit, because um, the feeling of loneliness is an identity thing, and that's why I love that question. It's a question of identity, right? It's like, what's that thing that is so powerful to make you feel like that, right? What is draining you? What is making you feel like that? What is draining that time? What is making you feel the way you're feeling? It seems to have a lot of power over you, right? Whereas I'm supposed to be the one that directs your emotions, right? Is what God is asking. It's like, you know, but I'm supposed to be the one directing your emotions, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about what you do, right? As opposed to, how does my work make me feel good, right? How does the title make me feel good, right? How does the results make me feel good, right? And and it is tied to how we feel in respect to what we know God is saying about us, right? And in respect to God's disposition about ourselves, like primarily, right? So I just wanted to share this. So one of the things that I use practically to sort of combat these feelings of like nervousness of what it is like a meditative prayers, right? So one of the things that I do is I sort of peel it, and I saw this from someone online too as well, and I've been practicing it, Christian online, and she says she peels back the layer of her identity, and it's because she's an entrepreneur too, I guess. Every time she like wakes up, and what she does is, I'm primarily not the founder, I'm primarily not the mother, I'm primarily not the sister, I'm primarily not the CEO, I am primarily not. So she begins to name all of these identities, right? I'm primarily not this, I'm primarily not that, and at the center she ends, I am yours in your mind. I am yours in your mind. And she keeps repeating that to herself. So what she's trying to do is to sort of detach who she is from what she does in the physical to something more natural. And this is why I agree with Isabella there. I think God has created us in such a way, ultimately, that our nervous system should respond to what we know of ourselves, in respect to what He is or what He has said about us, right? So you are the best version of your nervous system to the degree that you think constantly about who God is and what He feels about you. That's just all it is. And so from that space, you're able to like be a better father, a good mother, a good CEO, do whatever you got to do on the natural realm without losing your sense of self, right? Because at the core, your is and I mean, you're his own, and he's your own, right? And that's all that matters, right? At the end of the day, right? The world will fade away, entrepreneurship will fade away, all things will fade away, and it's just gonna be you and him at the end of the day, right? You're just gonna be you and him at the end of the day, and it wants to sort of like that viewpoint in here, and I think that that's what has helped me. I think I was sharing with Faith and Isabella. I made like a huge step, and I was like, oh, what's gonna become of me now? It's like I'm going from stability to entrepreneurship. I was like, oh, whoa, what's happening? And it comes and reminds me and says, did I not always provide for you because I am your father? And I discovered now, so it's not me as an entrepreneur now. That's the problem. It is because I refuse to remember that it was my father, and that's why I become anxious. That's just what it is. It's like prioritize my relationship with you, and that solves all of the emotions you would definitely come across as you leave. So I really love that he's asking that question. Is if he is saying, if I take everything and you're left with me, will you be as giddy, as happy, as fulfilled as when you meet your MRR or your ARR is like in the millions of dollars. And I think it's a very good question. It's an internal question because at the end of the day, we're gonna be with him without having to do business, and we're sure gonna be happy. At least I know that everyone is gonna be happy with just looking at Jesus's face and just being happy. And I think it's possible even now, in the midst of all of these activities that we do. So that's just what I wanted to add to that. So amazing stuff, Isabella. I think we'll probably have a part two of this because there's just a lot to unpack.
I'm gonna start doing the peeling back the layers thing every time now because that's good. It's good to be in that headspace, and when you wake up in the morning, I mean, I pray first, but it's also good to just remind yourself, like, okay, I'm gonna go to work today, but like, I'm not just
Mhm.
what I do for work, like, or I'm not just what I do for my company, or so that's a good takeaway for me. So thanks, Isaac. Let's see. Mama Kai, you put
May
something
I?
in. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Isaac, thank you so much. That was great feedback. It made me think of, I was watching this performance. It was a golden buzzer on Britain's Got Talent. And the song she sang I'd never heard of before, but it was just speaking to those things that you were saying. It was like the lyrics to the words are like, I just remember her saying, you say I'm strong and I feel I'm weak, but then it was just like the message of it was like, I believe you, and it was as though she was having a conversation with God, and she was trying to believe all the things that he was saying that she was. And so I just put that in there to share it. The other thing is that this is a really interesting conversation because the rest of you don't know, but and I don't know how much Isabella knows, but for the last 2 years, me and Wisdom have lived out of our car. We've been without stable housing for the last 5.5 years since we came back to Raleigh. And at some point, God did ask me. I was asking God, like, who am I without a house? Um, and this journey that we've been on has literally been God saying, "No, I want you to understand. First of all, Jesus was homeless. So let's just get it straight right there. You are having the same opportunity that he has. And so I consider myself the among the most blessed because I get to live and I get to walk in Jesus's shoes, and I get to see some of the things that he might have seen in his day. And I get a better experience because Jesus said, foxes have holes, birds have nests, the son of man have nowhere to lay his head. And at least I get to lay my head in my car every night, you know? And so but it's been amazing. And that's why I use those words specifically of being of infinite and intrinsic value, because those are the words that God spoke to me and said, no, you don't understand. You don't have to have anything. You don't have to be anything. You are already, you know? And so he allowed me to have everything stripped away. And that's why everything that I'm working for now is so that others can have that experience, so that wisdom can have that experience. You would not imagine how absolutely cruel adults are to children, and all the things that we've experienced, and all the ways that I've been put under heat because I allow wisdom to simply be a child. And so people treat us, whether, and it's not just, I can't say it's because I'm Black. It could be because I'm a woman. It could be because he's a child. It could be because he's a man, like there's so many different things. But like, just please, if when you get to that space of knowing who you are, like, just love yourself for being you, like, it's such a gift to just, I love myself. Like, I just have, and I love wisdom. He is like just, when I say that he is my heart beating outside of me, I call him my young Black male superhero. Because when God gave me his name, he told me it wasn't just going to be for the things that he would learn, but for the things he would teach. And so I have learned so much just watching him step into his confidence. Like, we read books and it'll talk about how children are like struggling with their identity, and wisdom will be like, I don't know what that means. I don't even know. That's not, that's not him. And it is like my honor. Like, I rise up. I have become a better person because I'm his mom, and he has been the example of showing me what it looks like to just be authentically himself and not shrink to make other people feel comfortable. And so, y'all, if this is something you're struggling with, if you don't, I just implore you, don't let God take everything away to find out what it's like. Find this book while you're inside, okay? But it is a beautiful experience, to be alive, to be human, to be known that God created me, and he like put this vibrant light inside of me. Like, the things that I talk about now, I didn't know 5 years ago when we started this. Like, I've learned it in the last 2 to 3 years. God can do anything that he wants with us when we make ourselves available. But I just invite you that if you don't have a good sense of yourself, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be done because I love to talk. I just invite you and I'm gonna challenge you to keep a gratitude journal. Like, I created one. God led me to create one. And the challenge is you write down 5 things every day that you're grateful for. And the more specific you can be, the better. Because what that does is it works with your brain's neuroplasticity, which means its ability to change. And when you start focusing on things that you're grateful for, it changes your brain to think at things in a more positive light naturally. So if you do that every day for 6 weeks, then you have over 300 things that you've written down that God has showed up in your life for, especially if you express gratitude for the challenges you're going through, because God will then reveal, like, oh, no, I make all things work together for your good now. Like, go ahead, write that down and be grateful for that. Because, no, you watch what I'm gonna do with that. At least that's how God talked to me. He may not talk to you like that, but that's how he talks to me. He be using all kind of slang. That's my big daddy. I'm his baby girl. Like, that's how we roll. But that's the kind of relationship we have. But I just implore you, like, you see God showing up in your life every day. The fact that you can connect to the internet. And I was thinking about what y'all were saying about every time the internet goes. I was like, that's because y'all are so powerful. You make the Wi-Fi afraid. You like, y'all got, they're more powerful than the internet. You don't even realize your power. Okay. So I was like, that's why y'all make it go out. It'd be like shiver, it'd be like shaking because you walked in. I'm like, that's right. That's right. You got some power. Yes. That's a blessing. Like, you just showed up in that space. And even the internet was like, oh, okay. So I just want to tell you, I love y'all. It's an amazing journey. Y'all should be so just like that. God has trusted you. He has trusted you to start this movement. So thank you again. I'm so honored to be a part of it. And thank y'all for letting me talk. Y'all so kind.
Mama Kai, I think that just made my night. But that's amazing. Yeah, no. And for those of you that don't know, Wisdom is her son, and he is about 7,
He's 9
6,
now.
9. Okay.
He just turned 9 in December. I know. I can't even believe it. Oh my gosh. He's gonna be
Yeah.
a decade in December.
Yeah. So, this was so good. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys all got something out of it. And thank you, Mama Kai, for the words of encouragement. Because sometimes, when you're doing all these things and, no one's there to tell you you're doing a good job every day, I mean, you don't have to have that, but it's nice. It's nice to just, let others know that it's helping. So, but yes, guys, that is all for this afternoon. This is our second virtual meetup. And so I'm really excited because it's only going to go up from here, honestly. Like, just watch. In about like 6 months, we'll have like I don't know, like 50 people in this virtual meetup. It'll be great. We're going to reach so many people. And I'm just so thankful that you guys are just putting time into like not just focusing on your career, but like, how is God guiding you? How can I be involved in community? Because I know like on a Monday at like 6, 7 p.m., it's been a long day. So I appreciate all of you. And yeah, we're excited to see you guys. We're gonna have another event on the 10th. We're gonna have another speaker come in to talk about his faith journey. He was an engineer, went into project development, and is now working with AI a little bit. And so we'll just kind of hear his journey on that. And then our next virtual meetup is at the end of April. And yes. So, all right, guys. Well, if you don't have any more questions, I'm going to let you go. And I'm so excited to see you guys again soon.
Thank you, Isabella.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It was an honor to meet you all, especially the new faces. Mama Kai, I haven't met you yet, but beautiful testimony, and thank you so much for sharing. And Isabella, of course, thank you for presenting.
Of course.
Good night. Love y'all. Continued success, everyone.
Oh,
Bye.
bye, Mama Kai.
Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
That was good.